We're doing absolute value inequalities level 3. We're asked to solve the inequality algebraically. Okay. So the technique is we get absolute value by itself. That breaks it up into two separate problems. That'll give us the critical values, and then we'll test the regions that are created from the critical values and then submit our answer. So let's start off, -5, absolute value 1 minus x, into absolute value -4, less than -64. Okay. So we want to change it to an equal sign first, so we don't have to worry about doing the arithmetic on this. There's techniques where you can just jump right in, but it's better, a little more easier. You don't have to memorize as much, just treating it as an equal sign and testing the critical values. Solve for the absolute value. -60. Now I'm dividing by a -5 here. If I would have kept my my inequality symbol, that would, remember, if you divide or multiply by a negative, that flips the inequality. So this is where it would kind of flip it and make it into an outside region function. So if everything's done correctly, it should be on the outer regions and skip the middle. But let's go ahead and continue on. We now have 1 minus x in the absolute values equals +12. Okay. Getting rid of the absolute values creates two separate equations. This is an OR option. So we have 1 minus x is equal to 12. And then the other one is we negate the other side, or do opposite the other side. So it's going to be 1 minus x equals -12. -1 minus 1, -x equals 11. Minus, let's go ahead and finish it. Multiply or do opposite both sides. Opposites make x equals -11. You can also multiply by -1 or divide by -1 or do opposites to both sides. -1 minus 1, -x equals -13. Opposite both sides, x equals +13. Those are our critical values. We graph it. We have a -11 and we have a +13. Okay. There is no equal sign on the inequality. That means it's an open circle at our critical values. It's not included. And then we're picking test points. So I'm going to pick -12. It's a little bit bigger. And then guess what number I'm going to pick in the center here? 0 is usually what I'd pick. I want to make my life easier. Okay, 0 is usually easier, but if I look here, if I plugged in the number 1, that's going to make 0. So that's going to be even easier. So I'm going to pick 1 here, and then I'm going to pick 14. All right, and then we go through the process of doing these test points, and then that'll give us the regions to shade, and then we go from there. And then let's not forget we're using OR as our final answer, not union. All right, so let's dive right in. -12 is our first one. All right, so this now gets plugged in. I have -5. We're plugging -12 into our original equation. You can also do it at this stage. No, we need the inequality, so we just need to do it that way. All right, 1 minus -12 into absolute value, -4, less than -64. And this is a question. We're checking to see if it's true or false. All right, so now I have -5, absolute value, 1 plus 13. So this, I'm just going to do a little bit of a skip step. A negative and a negative make it positive, so that's +12. 12 plus 1 is 13. -4, less than question mark, -64. Okay, absolute value of 13 is positive. 13 times 5, -5, is going to be That's 50, 65. And then that's going to be negative 69. Is that less than negative 64? And just be careful. Where would this be at on a number line? So we're dealing with negatives. Negative 69 is smaller. It's a smaller number. It's closer to negative infinity than negative 64. So this is a true statement. True means we shade that side. So that was negative 12 we tested. So that means this whole region is going to be true. That's the side we shade. We'll go ahead and do 1 next. And like I said, this should be false because it goes true, alternates false, alternates true. And then I'm kind of skipping the one that goes in the center. That's the kind of the easier one. It's just the center region, but we test all 3. So now we're testing 1. Negative 5, absolute value of 1 minus 1, yay. Minus 4, checking to see if it's less than negative 64. Negative 5, absolute value of 0. Minus 4, less than or equal to negative 64. All of this zeroes out. Absolute value of 0 is 0. 0 times 5 is 0. That leaves minus 4 less than negative 64. Is negative 4 less than negative 64? No, that is false. Negative 4 is greater than negative 64, so this is a false area. We don't shade false. And then let's go ahead and do the last one. All right, and then now we're testing 14 is what I picked. And here we go, negative 5, absolute value 1 minus 14, and absolute value minus 4, less than negative 64. And then we have negative 5, absolute value of negative 13, minus 4. This is all question. Question. Is that less than negative 64? Absolute value of negative 13 is positive 13. So minus less than question mark 64 negative. And 13 times 5, 65, negative 65. We get negative 69. Is that less than negative 64? Yes, negative 69 is less than negative 64. That is true. So that means this is our shaded region, and this is our true. All right, then we just want to write this. I use set notation. We can use inequality notation. I'm going to stick to set notation, I think. All right, so this is negative infinity to 12. We're not including it. These are or statements. And we got 13, not including it, to positive infinity. All right. I just kind of want to practice the inequality notation. So inequalities, I like doing both since they're given that option. How would we write this as an inequality? All right. So x is going to be less than x. Yeah, that's our variable. X is our variable. X is going to be less than, because there's no equal sign, less than 12. Okay, that's all the numbers smaller than 12, not including it. Or what would we do for this one? X is going to be greater than 13. Okay, so if this were between those two, then we would write it differently, but let's just go ahead and see how this works. less than 12 or x greater than 13. Yeah, let's go ahead and see how that works. See if they like inequalities or they force set notation. X less than 12 or x greater than 13. Let's see how we did. All right, let's see what they wanted. Negative 11 and 13. 12 and 13 is what it should have been. Let's see what my mistake was. Oh, I used the wrong value here. It was 11 that I had. I used the test point instead of the critical value. So let's see if it would have been okay if it had been that x greater than 13, x greater than 13. That was okay, and then it should have been less than negative 11, less than negative 11 at that final stage. So just lesson here is be careful about how you type it in. Make sure you don't get distracted by any of the extra details that you're working on. All the math was correct. I picked the wrong number here. And notice right here, I think I was just doing it too fast. It should have been the negative 11 that was right here, the negative 11. Okay, I didn't even put the negative sign here, so I just kind of, if that was a negative 11, everything should have linked together and been fine. So just be careful, learn from my mistakes so you don't have to make them.